and welcome back to Tiny Artist TV. So today is the first chunk video of Orctober. If you watch my last video explaining where the heck I've been for the past few months, I kind of gave a little preview of what the schedule is going to look like for Orctober. Last year I did kind of do daily videos, but this year I'm just going to do smaller chunks of 4, sometimes 5 different prompts that I'm going to be randomly generating, as you can see here on the screen. So I kind of pulled this together. Basically, I'm going to be rolling 3 different things. I'm going to be rolling my costume, what kind of costume it is, and then I'm also going to be rolling the color palette. So this is going to be weird. On another screen, because I don't have enough room on this screen, I have my random number generator, so you'll see me looking off to the side from time to time. It's just because this is the screen I've got my generator on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll up the first costumes that we're going to be doing for this week's, or today's, video. So first we're going to roll our costume. I've already got it set rolling number 1 through 31. So our first costume is 26, which is a Renaissance style. And then I'm just going to fill that in red, because we're not going to do that one again. The next number we're going to roll is what kind of costume it is. Number 99, a frightening Renaissance costume. Yes, I love it. And our color palette. So this is something that I did way back. Basically, I have this app that generates random color palettes. So as you can see at this point, I have about 5 columns worth of color palettes that I've generated through this app. So I have them numbered 1 through 34, and I'm just going to kind of rotate. So first one's going to be from column A, second one's going to be from column D, and so on and so forth. So this one is going to end up being, so it's going to be a frightening Renaissance costume, and it's color palette number 27, which is Toad Pond, which is perfect color scheme for us to get started on Orctober. I'm going to go ahead and roll the other ones off camera, and you'll get to see what costumes the orcs are going to be wearing as the video goes on. So hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. So, of course, our first one was, again, pretty easy to pull off, because not only was the color palette very agreeable with the subject matter, but I kind of immediately had an image in my head as soon as the costume prompt came up, and then the colors just helped that. So as you can see here, I've got my references pulled up that are pretty much in line with the color palette here. And yes, I am using a 3D modeler to do my posing. These are going to be quick sketches, so I didn't feel like fussing around with 5 or 6 different poses before I decided to finally get to the line art. Some of them I do not have the modeler, it just depends on how easy the pose came to me, but it's the same as using a reference. The only difference is you're actively tracing it instead of just eyeballing it. So anyway, we're getting started with the lines, and you may or may not have noticed, but the line art looks a little different. So I recently got a new paint program. It's not new, it's new to me. So I'm using Clip Studio, and it actually has line weight. It's wonderful. I love it, and it's made the entire process so much easier, because now I actually feel like, I guess, what other digital artists feel like when they draw. Instead of having to struggle with chipping away at a particular pen size or whatever, I can just draw. And so hopefully, as I'm pretty much going to be drawing every day, you guys see some improvement with not only my drawing style, but the coloring, just the whole execution of it all. And I may do some short tutorials on Clip Studio, but maybe not, because there's already a huge sea of them out there. At this point, I'm not even talking about the drawing anymore. I apologize for that. Back to my process. So I'm using the colors from the palette, not only for my lines, but also for the shading. So I feel like this is a good way to show that You don't have to use black for your lines. You definitely don't have to use black for your shading and your lighting. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but usually if you use a color for your lines and your shading, it just makes everything so much more dynamic and rich, because in real life, shadows typically aren't black unless it's like in a really dark space. Shadows are typically just a darker version of whatever color is there. So not only is using the color making the colors on this a lot richer, but it's pulling out some interesting shadows that wouldn't have been there if I just used black. So with this having to be a terrifying Renaissance costume, I give her a little bit of blood and gore, and the first prompt is finished. Prompt number 2. This is supposed to be a Smoggy farmer. So my first thought on that was, okay, this is a farmer who for some reason he's out at night. It's kind of like dark and dusky and dank, but look at this color palette. It's literally pink and green. It still ends up working somehow. I guess because the pink is, well, fuchsia, whatever. Don't get technical with me. Fight me in the comments if you want. But anyway, this fuchsia is dark enough that it's still kind of intimidating. And I guess the thing that's really pulling it off is the pose and the face. It makes a huge difference. Overall, I'm definitely, out of this short batch, I think this one ended up being, I guess, my second favorite. I really like the way the Renaissance one turned out. But as far as like pleasantly surprised, definitely happy with this one. Because like pink and neon green, what? And I do pull colors, not only for this one, but for all of them. I pull in colors that I start with the main palette, and then I'll go either up or down on my color wheel to kind of have it be the same hue, but maybe a different tint or tone or shade, which is just adding white, gray, or black to that particular color. As you can see, I did with the skin tone. It's not actually on the color palette, but that gray comes from the purple that I had originally done on the palette. And then the same thing with the smoke. I'm using just different shades of that purple to do the smoke and blending it together a little bit. And the shading, I use that dark raspberry since that's the darkest color in my palette. But it also gives it this kind of weird, eerie lighting. Just kind of playing around with the overall effect to kind of... I was going for that the smog is coming off of him, that there's something on the brim of his hat and it's like coming just down in like curtains, and I guess it works. It still looks kind of creepy. I love it. I love the way this one turned out. Number 3 out of 6. And at this point, the video has gotten kind of long, so I ended up having to split this into 2 parts, and I am going to upload them all together, but numbers 4, 5, and 6 are in a different video. But here we have number 3. Number 3, I ended up drawing what was supposed to be a condemned demon hunter. Demon hunter, easy enough. Condemned. My first thought was that they were hunting something and somehow ended up either getting exiled from their hunter coven, hunter clan or whatever, or the thing that they were hunting ended up putting a curse or a hex of some sort on them. So in the end, when I'm doing the coloring, I end up giving her some of these like cursed veiny markings and then these glyphs. This one, the concept was fine. As you can see, I'm just breezing through the sketch and the line art, and I keep looking at this color palette. This Naruto color palette. Thinking, You know, demon hunters usually wear like a lot of dark colors because they're trying to be sneaky. She has rubber duck yellow and like this bright, just, uh, on my color palette generator, I have this palette listed as Gyarados because that's basically what it is. So, figuring out where to put these colors while still having her be relatively inconspicuous, I guess it went okay. I toned down the coat to be more of this mustard color, and I used the original yellow as highlights. Would I still have necessarily picked these colors for a demon hunter? Not really. But that's part of the fun, is that I never in a million years would have used like pink to do a creepy farmer. So this one definitely ended up being an interesting color blocking challenge. And I don't know, maybe she got condemned for her bad fashion sense. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking and just let you guys enjoy what's left of the video at this point, and then I'll come back for the outro. Here we have our first 3 prompts for Orctober. We have our terrifying Renaissance costume, we have our Smoggy farmer, and we have our condemned demon hunter. And as I mentioned, the last 3 for today's video are going to be off in a separate part. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You're just going to have to watch the video to find out. But for now, I hope to see you over in part 2. Have a weird day.